Hi, this is Julia with German 365. Today we have another Spezial number 2, and we're going to talk about Adjektivendungen. It's a little bit more advanced, so depending on where you're at in your studies, you either just want to watch the video and get a general idea, or you actually are going to study along with this episode. So first, most important about adjectives is to understand that we can use them in two ways, either as an attributive adjective or as a descriptive adjective. The descriptive way is the easier way in a way in German because you don't have to apply an ending to them. So let's look at that. So when we're using an adjective descriptively, we're doing so to describe things or people, which we always do when we use adjectives. However, here we're using the verb to be specifically. So how is something? It is big. It is small. People are nice. Things like that. So the adjective is actually not in front of the noun it describes. So it's not big people, big cat, small cat. But it's after the verb or the adverb if we have one, and the adjective will not have an ending in German. So let's look at examples here. We have a little cute cat. So how can we describe that cat using to be and an adjective? Exactly. Die Katze ist süß. Here we have dice. How can we do that? How can we describe those? Die Würfel sind nicht gelb. They're not yellow. Die Würfel sind rot. Yep, they are red. Let's summarize this real quick. So you need to know the conjugation of sein if you want to use adjectives descriptively. And another common verb that uses the adjectives descriptively is werden. So you may want to start studying that verb a little more in depth as well. And then just keep in mind that the adjective is not in front of the noun and that the adjective will not take an ending if you use it this way. All right, that's it about the descriptive way of using adjectives in German. Now let's look at the more complex way where we have to add an ending, and that's the attributive way of using adjectives in German. Here we see that the adjective will appear right in front of a noun. So that's the most important aspect you want to take away before understanding how to apply the correct ending. So let's look at this. So we're still describing things or people if we use an adjective attributively, and we can still use the verb to be. But now the adjective is in front of the noun it describes. So that is the big change here, and that is why it then will likely have an ending. Let's go back to our examples with the cat and the dice. So how can we describe the cat now? Das ist eine süße Katze. So we see that the adjective is in front of the noun that it describes, and it has an ending attached to it. I'll talk about how we identify the endings here in a little bit, but let's look at the dice example as well. So we see our dice, and we can say, Ich habe rote Würfel. Now we're not using to be, we're using haben, because we can use whatever verb really want. So important is just that when we then use the adjective, it's in front of the noun and it will be with an ending. Brings us to the question, how do I know the ending? Well, there are two ways really. Either you memorize charts or you start understanding the underlying logic, and I have a flowchart that will help with that. But there's one question you have to ask yourself on either approach, and that's, is there an article? So this question is guiding to then move on in order to apply an ending. You also always need to know gender, number, and case of the noun that you are describing. So you really got to go back to the base of everything, and that's understanding and knowing your nouns with the appropriate article and also in the plural forms. Yeah, you really need to be comfortable with the der word endings. And I'll briefly review it in here, but there's a separate episode that you can watch specifically on that. So just a brief refresher on what are those der word endings again. We have the articles der, die, das, die in the nominative case, and they have the endings er, es, and e. And you attach those endings also to dieser, diese, dieses, welcher, welche, welches. So all those, are der words. And you of course apply the case variations accordingly as well. So welchen or welchem. And they're in contrast to the ein words, which include mein or ihr, plus an ending. So keep those in mind as well. So if you're all good on the der word endings and the ein word endings, we can start with approach 1. Here you need to memorize 3 different charts, and you must know number, gender, and case of the nouns that you're using. Also, in this approach, you need to look at whether there's a definite article preceding the noun, an indefinite article, or no article at all. And that's where you then go about knowing which chart that you've memorized you have to apply. So let's look at definite article preceding. We have der große Hund. Indefinite article preceding, ein großer Hund. And no article preceding, großer Hund. So depending on what you're talking about, are you talking about the big dog, a big dog, or just big dog, you have to apply the correct article and adjective in German. Let's look at our cute little cat again. We have the sentence, die kleine Katze ist süß. We're using both an attributive and a descriptive adjective. With the indefinite article preceding, it simply looks like eine kleine Katze ist süß. And then last but not least, no article preceding, we have to make the plural here. Kleine Katzen sind süß. So this is another great example of how to use the adjectives with a definite and indefinite or no article at all. Also, in those examples, we use the nominative case. So basically the first row of the charts that you're studying was applied. But here I broke it up into the der word chart, the ein word chart, and the no article chart. So let's have a look at these a little more in detail. We're already looking at the der word chart. So can you see a pattern or something curious to you? Exactly, we're basically only having 2 endings here, the E ending and the EN ending. So I color-coded it for you. Let's look at the ein word chart. Is there a pattern to this one as well? Kind of, not as straight cut as with the der word, but a little bit we can say. We have the ER, the E, and the ES ending, and then the EN. And of course, you still need to know your articles. So there's no way around that. Brings us to the unpreceded ones. There you don't need to know articles, but you need to know the endings for the articles because they correlate with how the ending looks like on the adjective. And again, context will tell you if you're using a der word, an ein word, or no article at all when you're using an adjective attributively. Now, my approach number 2 has nothing to do really with memorizing charts. It's understanding the underlying logic of how adjectives work. And it definitely helps to know number, gender, and case of the noun. However, it's a little bit more forgiving. So here's the complete flow chart, but we will go through it step by step. So the first question you're asking is there an article? If there is no article, you simply attach the der word ending to the adjective. So that really resembles the chart that you just looked at last on approach number 1. If, however, you answered yes, there is an article, you have to ask yourself if the article is in its original form. If it's not, you attach an en ending. If it is in the original form, you have to ask, is the article singular? If it's not, you again attach the en ending. And if it is, you have to ask the question of whether the article shows gender or not. If it does not show gender, you apply the er or the es. Er for masculine, es for neuter. And if it does show gender, then the ending will be I. Let's apply this to an example. Das Haus hat ein Rotdach. Is there an article? Yes, ein. Is it in the original form? Yes, ein is a nominative case form. Is it singular? Yep, it is. And does it show gender? No, because ein could be masculine or neuter. We have to then attach an es to rot to indicate the neuter. All right, I hope you found this helpful, and I hope it wasn't too much information at once, but you can break it up. You can go back, you can stop the video, take your own notes, and go at your own pace. That's the good part about this. Yeah, other than that, if you have comments or questions, please put them in the comment box below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you like this, if you found this helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for other videos and specials.